Questions?
Well, Coach, I know that obviously Monday was an exciting day and everybody's getting the feel back of being out there. Now, kind of like a honeymoon over, time to get back after it. And what have you seen the first few days that really excite you, especially, with some of the new guys that you've got?
Yeah, well, I thought, for 2 days in a row, I thought our energy and attitude has been really great. I thought our enthusiasm and competitiveness was really good both days. I think we've done a really good job of the competitive back and forth. Offense make a play, defense make a play, offense make a play, defense make a play. And to me, when you have a good team, that's what it should be. It should be some back and forth. It shouldn't be just one side dominating a day. And we got that right now. The other thing is, obviously, we got some new guys that are learning how we practice. I think they're doing a really good job of that. Obviously, we haven't got pads on yet. One more last day without having to be able to say, oh, I would have blocked him if I'd have had pads on. But, really good. I think the D-line has been consistent. I talked to the team afterwards. The thing we got to do a little bit better job is our mental focus in the back end of practice. When we get a little tired, when we've had a few reps, we're breathing a little bit heavy, we got to be able to focus in on the things that we can control, right? Getting the signal, get a line, communicating, those type of things. But overall, I think it's been a really good start. Obviously, there's some things we got to continue to improve on as far as installs and the minute details of the positions, but a really good start.
Did anyone have a standout day that maybe you can talk about, maybe excited you today?
I think Gilmore flashed a little bit today. I think he got his hands on a couple balls. To me, that's a defensive thing, because everybody's got to do their part in that. I think he got his hands on a couple balls. I think Corey Gamage made some really strong contested catches. He's got really strong hands, and the thing we challenged him with, Coach Bonight, is challenging those guys at the receiver position is to be consistent catching the ball. I know it sounds remedial, right? You're a wide receiver, catch the ball, but you got to make the contested catches, and anybody can catch the ball running wide open down the sideline. But, we got some really good DBs and we're playing some tight coverage, and these guys are able to really get involved in some of these passes, and being able to contested catch is really something that they've worked on. I think Corey did a good job of that today as well.
You mentioned Gamage, and how critical are he and Talik Keaton? Obviously, there's some youth at the quarterback position. Those guys have been here for a few years. They're veteran presences. How important are they for the quarterback's development and having worked with Clint Trickett, knowing his expectations as well?
Yeah, I think we said it last year with our situation. It's not all on the quarterback. When he does throw you the ball, you got to catch it. And that sounds remedial again, but we probably had way too many unforced drops last year when we went back and looked at it. And that's one of the things we've really been harping on. The other thing is, when you have young quarterbacks, from a receiver standpoint, you got to be really sure of where your route depth is, what your release is, where on the area and zone are you supposed to be, what area of the field, all of those things, because as a young quarterback, they may not be able to kind of improvise if you release outside when you're supposed to release inside, or, if it's a zone and you're sliding through rather than sitting. So all of those things to me are how the receivers can help, these young quarterbacks. And really all it is playing consistent at the wide receiver position, the tight end and running back, in the pass game. The more consistent they can play, the more the young quarterbacks can go back and look and say, oh, hey, on this play versus this coverage, this is what it looks like. This is where I need to locate the ball. So the more consistent they can be, I think it helps the maturation of these young quarterbacks.
Coach, you mentioned the other day the safety position, taking a hit, losing guys like Drayton and McCoy and Nas. Who are the guys this spring that you're really looking at that position, and what have you seen out of that group so far?
Yeah, I think, obviously EJ Jackson is back. He's played a little bit, in those positions. When I say in those positions, in both of those positions. So he's got a little bit of experience back there. Isaiah Norman, transfer from, they came in, this January. He's a veteran player. He's played not necessarily in our defense, but he's played, in the secondary. And then Andre Sam, Andre Sam has done a really good job. He probably flashes a little bit more throughout practice because he's a little bit quicker than the other guys. You know what I mean? It's like, kind of like a bug fly by your eye, you're like, oh, what was that? But I think the three of them have done a really good job. Kerryon Martin, was injured last year, and he's able to he's working back into some of those reps that he wasn't able to get last year. So we've got kind of a committee right now, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to expose them to as much as possible rather than say, hey, you're just a, boundary safety or you're just a field safety. So right now we got some guys that are really, taking some steps. We're excited about Kerryon just because we didn't have him last year. So seeing him kind of get back in the flow has been good as well.
I was going to ask specifically about him. He's a local guy. We know him from playing high school ball around here, but as he gets back into the swing of things from that injury, what are you seeing out of him specifically?
Yeah, before he got injured, he was making some progress. He was a physical guy that could tackle in space, that could run well. And then the injury kind of set him back, and the injury didn't allow him to train all off season. You know what I mean? So now he's got a full off season to train. You can start to see his confidence come back a little bit. You can start to see his movements, agility, body balance, and control come back a little bit. Obviously, he's a little rusty with necessarily the calls and the adjustments. Hey, if this guy motions exactly what I do. But from a movement standpoint and from a athleticism standpoint, he's starting to make some strides. Now, day two, don't go sell the farm on Kerryon Martin in day two, but just throughout the fourth quarter program, the first couple of days of spring, we were able to do some walkthroughs in the fourth quarter program. He's done some really good things. He's making the progress that we'd like to see him make.
The offensive line, another group that's seen a lot of turnover from last year. How important is this spring for them to kind of get together, know each other, and gel?
Yeah, I think, the one good part about it is all of those guys are returning. Trent Holler is really the only new guy. Now they're in different roles, right? So we got old guys, different roles. But I think as far as a continuity standpoint, I think you're in a really good spot. What we got to get to now is the guys that are replacing the guys who moved on. Luckily, the guys that are stepping in to replace them played some quality reps, last year. Osborne played quality reps, and before he got injured, Driscoll was able to play some quality reps. Dalton, was able to finish a full year healthy. So now he's able to kind of go into the spring with a little confidence, So I think we feel good about the guys we have. Trent Holler's come in with the right mentality and the right mindset. Obviously, he's played college football, not necessarily our scheme, but, playing O-line and the fundamentals and techniques. So we feel really good about it. Tyshawn Hurst is a guy that, came in last year and was able to kind of train, played a little bit, but is now taking a step and making a push in that group. Stephen Fichot, a guy who came in. So we got some guys who didn't necessarily have a huge role last year, but are now getting that same training or opportunity to kind of build some of that experience moving forward.
Coach, you look at special teams and obviously a lot of turnover there with the specialist. And I know that a lot of focus goes to the O-line and the quarterback room and the safeties and things like that. But that third phase might have more turnover as far as position groupings than anybody on the team. What are you looking for this spring out of those guys? Is it more consistency or what is the biggest aspect that you need from?
Well, I think the biggest thing is one, as coaches, we got to find out what they can do well. We got a new punter. Rob did a really good job for us, was here for a really long time, had some consistency at that position. Now we got John McConnell, who's got some talent, but we last year's scheme was catered to what Rob did really well. So now we got to figure out exactly what does McConnell do really, really well and kind of cater to that. Obviously, from a kicking standpoint, we're breaking in a brand new kicker. So we got to figure out what do they do really well. Are they right hash guys, left hash guys? Is their range 50 and in? Is their range 40 and in? So some of those things we got to figure out. Luckily enough, or as people say, if you got a snapper, you got a chance. Having Rob Appio back definitely helps. Rob's definitely the leader in that group, and he can kind of help manage, how do we go about preparing in practice, which is good. Even though McConnell didn't play last year, he was here, so he at least knows a little bit about how we do things. So it's good for us to be able to see what those guys can do. It's really good. I think it's just like the quarterback position at the kicker position. It's really open competition. And, you legitimately mean that, meaning everyone's got an opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see how we go this spring, what they're able to do. Consistency obviously is going to play a huge role in it. But for us being able to see the first time of what these guys can do will be good.
Coach, you mentioned the quarterbacks. How's that going through, 2 days of practice?
It's really good. I think what we see is kind of what you would expect, right? Cam Fancher kind of understands what we're doing a little bit more. He's able to kind of operate with a little bit more consistency. The young guys, Chase and Peter, they flash. One play they make a beautiful throw. One play they look like they just showed up, yesterday. But usually when they flash, if you look down at the script, it's a play that they've repped multiple times. So that leads you to believe with experience and reps that they'll be able to do some things. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Talent-wise, it's there. You watch them in 7-on-7, you watch them in individual drills. They've got the arm talent. Then you put the big monsters in front of them, and it's kind of like, can he see over those guys? And then all of a sudden, boom, he'll make a play, and you're like, oh, good. And then, 2 plays later, if it's something new, it's like, it's a little bit slow process. And so I think right now Cam is probably a little bit farther ahead, not necessarily from a talent standpoint, but just from a comfortability standpoint, if that makes sense, and experience, even though he didn't have much game, but just experience in the system. Chase and Peter are doing some really good things. Just got to get them understanding more so they can be more comfortable.
Coach, just touching on it really quick. And I'm cutting out here a little bit, but Pro Day obviously was today, and you guys see some guys get back. And how important are these type of days, not only for those guys moving forward with their NFL aspirations, but for some of the younger guys to see them back and going through that process, sort of to re-ingrain, hey, this is the ultimate goal here. That's to get to the next level and be successful.
Yeah, I think it's ultra positive, right? It motivates the guys. It lets them know that, hey, the NFL scouts are watching. We had a bunch of scouts here today from a bunch of different teams, which was phenomenal. Our guys that got to work out in the pro day, the 11 guys that got to work out, did a phenomenal job of creating value for themselves. And I told the guys in the team meeting, the guys that are here now, you got a chance to see what you're working toward. You got a chance to see that the NFL scouts will come to Marshall. So now you got to handle your part, so I think it's good. I think it's good for the guys that worked out to see their teammates support them. And now they got to take the next step, right? They got to continue to close the gap on, the rest of the draft class. So I think it's really good. I think anytime that, our guys can get a visual and a actual physical, touch an NFL scout or see an NFL scout here on our campus, I think it's always good. And then for them to see their teammates or former teammates do well kind of motivates them. It's like, hey, I worked out with Nas Johnson. I know what type of work he's put in. I worked out with, Will Ulmer. I know what type of work he's put in, and so on and so on. So I think it's really good. I'm really proud of those guys, the 11 guys, they're kind of like the class that chose to stay. They could have been gone. We got a new head coach. I've told them this multiple times. They could have hit the bricks and got out of here, whether it's transfer portal, move on with their own life. But they chose to stay. And not only did they choose to stay, they bought into everything we were asking them to do. So I'm really proud of those guys. Happy for them.
I think we're good.
I'm good.
Awesome, guys. Appreciate you guys. I guess I'll see you guys on Saturday. Take care. Go Herd.